Hey guys and girls, how are you? I am just about to introduce you to Callum Hardingham, the Life Pirate, and today we're going to be talking to the parents, but kids, please feel free to listen to this. We're going to be talking about how to communicate with your child to get results, and I'm really excited about it. This is something that I really need to know, not for me. I think, you see, I like to think I already know this sort of stuff, but for me to say that is very arrogant, because there's always something to learn, there's always something to know. And we've just got Callum on right now. If he just clicks the link, we'll be good to go. Hopefully we'll be starting soon. Got a little bit of a different background for him as well. Just before we do go on to that, just remember as well, we are dedicating proceeds to the NHS. So I've put it onto this page, this Facebook page right now. So there's a link that should be a little bit down there, or it might be up there. I don't really know. I think it's down there actually. And if you'd like to, we'll be so chuffed. So chuffed. No pressure though. What we would really like to do is for you to learn so much information, and for you to get little snippets of information that can help you progress in your life. And today we've got Callum, who is a ninja warrior, a life pirate. Talking to Bianca before, the fear of moving to another country, that's exactly what he did. He moved all the way to Bali all by himself and made that commitment, and he's just been excelling there. There were tough times, but the lion inside of him made him plow through, and he's been on a journey to influence so many people worldwide. He's an international coach, international speaker. He's been just a huge influence in my life. I'm going to kindly introduce the man himself.
Hello there.
What's going on?
Dude, look at that background. Wow, I'm impressed. I'm not surprised, but I'm impressed.
Yeah.
Expect nothing less.
Which one would you be?
If I could be a superhero or a Marvel. Okay. I would be Iron Man. I would go with Iron Man. My brain feels that's tangible. I feel like I might be able to do that. You know, or do we count Captain Jack Sparrow as a superhero, or just someone who's incredible at fluking life? Maybe I'd go with him as well. Maybe a combo, maybe a combination of the two. I'd be Iron Jack. That's who I'd be.
Okay. I was thinking Iron Sparrow. You know, we've already.
Ooh, Iron Sparrow.
We can go with that.
No, I'd be Iron Sparrow. I'm going to go with your suggestion. I hear the cue.
Good. There you go. In fact, I might put that one on the little banner just there. But dude, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been going really well so far, man. We've had four epic ladies.
Whoa.
Oswald would like to say hello.
It's because he knows I'm here, mate. He recognises the voice.
I think he does know you're here. You might have to go out in a minute if we can orchestrate that. Dude, sorry about that. That was a bit random. It's been so good. Four amazing ladies on, and now we're going to polish up the afternoon, begin the afternoon with you talking about whatever it is you want to talk about. In fact, I kind of know what you want to talk about because we've kind of orchestrated that as well.
We might have done, yeah.
So sweet. People that are watching this, please excuse thy pug. He does that from time to time. Don't worry about that. He will stop. We're going to write this down though right now. This is happening. There we go.
This is a new platform for me. I'm just getting acquainted with it.
Yeah, here you go.
It's similar to Zoom. People can comment. I can see them commenting, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, people can comment. So if you are on this, guys, just leave Callum a little comment as we go along. That'd be really cool. About anything you want to. But Callum, I think you've created a presentation. No,
I have created a talk that will be delivered via the mouth and no slides.
That's wonderful. Wonderful. Sweet. So this one is designed for parents, but kids who are watching this, that's pretty cool as well. What I believe we are talking about, or along the same lines, Callum always puts a different spin on things, which is amazing. Megan says hello.
Hello there. Hello, Megan.
We're talking about the how to communicate with your child to get the results, I guess. And this can go with anybody. You know, you can use these skills to communicate with your wife, your husband, your friends, your boss, your team.
With everyone and anyone, yeah, with everyone and anyone.
Cool.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, I don't
At
really
least
want
that's the goal.
Yeah, I've given you a little mini introduction, buddy. But if you want to do one yourself, you can do, or you can roll straight into it. Free reign.
Wonderful, man. And just remind me, how much time do I have?
An
I'll
hour.
be sure to honour that. Wonderful.
An hour, 50 minutes to an hour. Yeah.
Lovely. I'll leave some time at the end for potential questions.
Perfect. Yeah.
Perfect. And just let me know, is the signal okay? And if it isn't, I can switch to my hotspot. So just if any moment it's not too good, just let me know, and I'll be quiet and I'll switch.
I'll do
that.
Okay. A little bit. I can hear some clicking. I think it might be your thing hitting the desk or something like that. I don't really know.
You know what?
Ooh.
There we go.
Oh, yes, there you go. No clicking. We can hear you. Perfect. Go on, dude. Let's go.
Wonderful. So, dude, first and foremost, mate, it's always a pleasure to see you thriving and bringing your passion to the world. Watching your journey over the years, from close and from afar, from different parts of the world. For both of us, has been epic, man. And I think I speak for everybody here who's watching today, parents, children, how cool Dale is, how inspiring he is hard to describe in words. But I'm super proud of you, bro. And I'm really, really happy to be here and at least contribute to this epic stuff that you create and bring into the world. And look, I want to get, let's address the elephant in the room right now, because there is one. And it's important I say it out loud so that everybody who's listening understands where I'm coming from. Number one, I don't have kids, right? So why am I speaking to you? Why am I telling you things about parenting? Well, it's an interesting story, and it's one that I feel would be best delivered if I stripped back my masks, got vulnerable, and gave you a little bit of insight into my story first and foremost. So, and by the way, just comment along as we go along if you need to, and ask questions, and I'll always come back to you. Anyway, so for me, a long time ago, before age 11, I experienced, as we all do in life, some pain. In fact, some really deep pain. And that pain was the loss of my dad. And I remember a day walking into my house. My mum had just picked me up from my best friend's house, who I used to go to after school every day. And she was very different that day, very somber, and something was a little bit off. Obviously, I didn't know what was about to come. And when we got back to the house, she asked me to go upstairs, and she sat me down. She came down to my level. She looked me in the eyes, and she said, "Callum, your dad has passed away." And in that moment, everything in my life, everything I knew, everything that felt stable, everything that felt tangible, real, just exploded. Exploded, disappeared, dissolved, whatever you want to label it with. But ultimately, it was very chaotic. My emotions were obviously not that developed. I was only 11 at the time. I didn't know how to deal with these things. And to hear that at that time was very, very, very hard. Now, I'd also lost my granddad. And then the following year, we lost my other granddad. Now, this put me in a position, but also both my mum and both grandmas in a position where we'd all lost people very close to us. For me, it was all of my male role models. And little did I know at the time, because I didn't know anything different, how that was going to challenge me, how that was going to force me to learn how to be a man, how to go from being a boy to a teen to being a man. And I didn't have any point of reference to do so. And this, to cut a longer story short, led me into a journey that brought up a lot of challenges. I didn't know, again, how to deal with those emotions, but also at the time of life, we don't know how to deal with those emotions yet, because actually we don't have people like Dale around who are teaching us how to do these things, how to be confident, teaching us how to react to feeling angry or share when we're feeling frustrated. We didn't have Dale around then. And so for me, it was a matter of having to figure a lot of things out by myself. Now, it goes without saying, and actually I'm going to say it, I had 3 wonderful, incredible women in my life, my mum and both grandmas. And I think if it wasn't for them, in fact, I know if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here today for a few different reasons. However, they weren't there to do the job of my dad. They were there to do the job of being grandma and being mother. But through their own pain and their own losses, that became very difficult. And so what I realize now when I look back on it, and I'm going to be 30 this year, the journey that set me on from an early age was understanding how to not only be a man, learning what that means from a blank slate, because I had no prerequisite ideas of what that means, but also how to parent myself. Not entirely. I had an incredible parent in my mother, but also had her own things to deal with. But for me, how to parent myself. And that wasn't so evident really until later years. Actually, I was pretty chaotic. Not going to lie, from age 11 up until age 22, I was chaotic. I was on a mission to self-sabotage most of the things in my life, mostly myself. Never outwardly to others, mostly myself. I did go through issues with alcohol and drugs. That was my way of hiding from the things that I didn't know how to deal with, again, because I didn't have those people in my life, such as Dale right now, to teach me how to deal with that. And that's what's so amazing. And again, just props to Dale, because he's given people the tools to deal with these things without having to go to other vices such as that. Now, this period of time in my life really came to a crossroads at age 20. After 10 years of really kind of going in and out of depression, going in and out of emotional turmoil and instability, it came to a point in life where if this was what life was about, I didn't want to be in life. It wasn't something that felt compelling to me. It wasn't something that felt inspiring to me. However, there was something deep down that inspired a spark of hope. And I don't know what everyone's beliefs are right now, and I don't need to. But what I know is that something within me, whether it was a voice of my own or something outside of that, told me that you have more to give. There's more to this life, and you need to figure this one out. Now, this was coupled with that at the time I was a health and fitness professional. I've been a personal trainer for nearly 3 years at that time. And I was growing more and more frustrated in that area because I really, really wanted to help people. And that often is a tendency of those who haven't learned to help themselves yet as well. It's kind of where it's born from. We haven't learned to help ourselves, but we can see very clearly how to help others. It's like when you have that friend who is on the outside of your problem. They can see it so clearly, right? They can see it so clearly. They're like, yo, just take a step back. Obviously, you need to do this. And it's very easy, isn't it, when we're not caught up in the emotions, to be able to see logically and clearly what the solution is. And so I was in this frustration point of not only was I not happy with my life outside of my career, it was almost 2 lives, but I wasn't happy with how I was able to help people. I wasn't being able to give them the results that I really wanted to give them. But this was also true for the many other personal trainers in the same gym at the time. We couldn't kind of figure out, why is it that when we ask people to do something, such as apply their nutritional information, we're giving them, they have this goal, they want to lose weight, tone up, whatever it may be. Why is it that when you give them the blueprint to do that, that 90% of the time, it doesn't happen in the way that they originally described? And obviously I want to take responsibility for that. But when I could see that as a pattern throughout, it was concerning me. Now, fortunately, there was one key event that happened. And this is important for us all, because this is the moment where this starts to make sense. I walked into the staff room of the building that I was working in one day, and there was a book on the side. And I don't know if you've ever had these moments where something just draws you towards it. Maybe it's a person. Maybe it's a place. I don't know. Maybe it's a picture. For me, it was a book that day. And I opened the book, flicked through the pages, and one of the first sentences that came out to me and it was really highlighted in my own mind was, "You are in charge of your mind and therefore your results." And I've heard that millions of times now. However, it's still as profound as it was on day one. And it's still the most fundamental learnings and tools we could all fall back on, regardless of your goal. If your goal is to communicate better, if your goal is to be able to be more motivated, be more inspiring, if your goal is to be a better leader, whatever your goal is, if your goal is to do incredible at school, whatever that goal is, that fundamental line that I came back to, that came and found me that day, was the trigger to what would happen after. And this led me on what has now been a 10-year journey. I went into many different courses and learned all about neurolinguistic programming. Became one of the youngest trainers and master coaches of neurolinguistic programming in the world at the time. And I then went on to create a company dedicated to health and fitness professionals to teach them all how to get their clients to do the things they're asking them to do. The word in there is adherence, right? How do we inspire the individual in front of us that we know a part of them really wants to change, but we also know a really big part of them is absolutely resistant to that. Hence why everyone hasn't got what they want right now. It's not because they can't get it, it's because a part of them is very much not doing what they want them to do. Okay. And this was interesting for me, and I created the company called The Mindset Guys, which I co-ran with a very good friend of mine, Samuel Pashley. And actually, consequently, a little bit after that, Mr. Dale Vincent Hancock was on board, and he was a great contribution to that. And Dale was one of the people I was fortunate enough to work with for a while, and we had some awesome experiences with him. That, and what Dale has done with that is just, it inspires me so much. Now, why am I telling you all this? Well, I want to highlight two things from what I've told you so far as to why it's important to listen right now. Adherence is everything. Doesn't matter if you know how to do something, if you've done it, but if you don't know how to communicate that, well, then it kind of falls on deaf ears. I mentioned earlier that I had to learn how to parent myself. I didn't realize that until really in the last few years that that's what I'd been doing. I didn't realize that I was having to kind of fill in the blanks of what does it mean to be confident? What is true confidence? What does it mean to embrace masculine traits of our personality, such as being assertive, such as really owning what it is you're doing with your actions and your words? What does it mean to be a leader? Okay, these are very important things, I believe, for us all, whether you are the CEO of a company, whether you are the public speaker, whether you are the coach, or whether you are the parent. Regardless, we're all leaders. But even if you're the child, you are a leader. You're the leader of your own life. And you have that responsibility. And coming back to that line that found me in that book that day, you are in charge of your mind and therefore your results. That's why that's so fundamental. So before I have a little pause for a moment and we just check in and see what's coming up for everybody, I want to introduce a concept. In fact, it's beyond a concept. It's a reality for us all. And that is that we all have a child within us. Not literally. Maybe literally, if you're a pregnant lady, right? You might have a child within you. But outside of that, we all have a child within us, man, woman, whatever age you're at. And this in psychology is understood as the different personality traits of us that are yet to be developed. And often this happens through the periods of time in life when we're a younger child, where we haven't quite had all of our needs met. And here's the thing, right? We just need to remember this. We're not taught how to meet all those needs either. So it's neither the parent's fault or the child's. It just is what it is. We all go through trauma. We'll all have pain. We'll all have challenge. And we will all have our responsibility to go and complete those needs when we start to go into adulthood and further and beyond that. The reality is, though, and after working with thousands of people around the world, most of us are big kids in adult suits. Most of us are big kids in adult suits. You might see that in moments where you're in an argument with your partner. You might see that when you are getting irrationally frustrated with your business. You might see that when you get incredibly triggered by your child. That feeling, that irrationality that comes over us all, because we're human, by the way, is when we are in that inner child. That child has been triggered within us. Its unmet needs are being replaced and being brought to the forefront of our mind. And this is something that I experienced very profoundly, actually, only last year. Last year, I'd spent most of the year in Bali, and I then went back for a mate's stag do in Ibiza. It was awesome. And then went over to Malaga. And now in Malaga is one of our good friends who Dale also knows. And I'd stay with him for a while. And I was there and wanted to go on a little trip by myself. My girlfriend is also running retreats around the world, so she wasn't there. So it was just me. And I decided I was going to go to a place called Tarifa.
just down the coast. Okay, beautiful drive, coastline, wonderful, vast mountain ranges. As you can see them on your right hand side, you can see the incredible, illuminated ocean on the right, on the left hand side. Beautiful drive. And when I'm in Tarifa, I was there for 4 days. And as I got to know the town and I was exploring and just enjoying the food and the different life of the day and the night, one night I was in my room and I could hear some music. And that music was speaking to me because it was reggae music. And I happen to like a little bit of reggae music. It's funsies. So I could hear the reggae music and I thought, you know what? I'm going to continue this adventure and I'm going to just go out right now and I'm going to find where the music's coming from. So I went on this walk and it started to get louder and louder and got closer and closer. And I found it was actually on the beach. So I walked along the beach and in the distance at that point, I could see this hut. And the hut was pretty big. It had a bar in it. I could see people dancing. And as I got closer and closer, it was actually a live band. Brilliant. Now, I was really excited by that. However, despite my excitement and despite my wanting to go and dance on that dance floor and just enjoy myself, because why wouldn't you? Something was stopping me. And it's funny, this voice came and it was, why don't we stand behind those people there? Because then these people in this room won't know that I'm by myself and then they won't think I'm weird because, of course, they're all there for me and not the live band that's in front of them. Right? Interesting.
Yeah.
Now, thankfully for the work that I've done, I can start to be aware of those voices when they start to mislead me. Let's say I'm going to use that label now. And I felt myself stood behind these people, basically hiding in plain daylight, pretending, I might be with them so I don't look weird. I look weird anyway. Who am I kidding? Right? Now, I really wanted to go on that dance floor. Now, a few years back, I wouldn't have. A few years back, I would have just stood behind those people, or I may not have even gone down there. I would have denied that real want to go and do something that was exciting and compelling to me. However, knowing what I know, I asked myself, okay, why can't I go on the dance floor? And who was I? You might ask yourself, who was I asking? Well, I was speaking to that part of me, that child within me, because I knew that when I'm really in my adulthood, when I'm really in my power, or let's just use the best label, when I'm really in my true self-leadership mode, things like the opinions of others, judgment, the potential, all those kind of things, thoughts, aren't a problem anymore. They just dissolve because you can lead and you make your needs most important. Now, I asked myself, why can't I go on the dance floor? And it was answers such as, they'll think I'm weird, people will know I'm by myself, they might not like me, lots of things. And I think everybody here right now, if you were being honest, you would agree that you've had those thoughts before. Fears of judgment, fears of failure. And with that awareness, I was able to ask myself, okay, I'm going to show up as my father right now. Not the father that I lost, but the father I've developed in myself. And if I was being the parent to myself right now, what would I do? Well, if I was stood next to me as a child right now, I'd take my kid's hand. I'd tell him it's all going to be fun. You're safe. You're with me. And let's go and dance together. Let's go on that dance floor. It doesn't matter what anyone thinks. You have every right to enjoy yourself. And I did. I told myself that. And I really got into that space of ownership. And safe to say, I had a bloody good evening. It was amazing. It was really, really good. I went on the dance floor. I was there for 3 hours. 3 hours. Not a care in the world. Right? Could have been the weirdest person there. Probably was. But it didn't matter because I had an amazing time. That time, though, could have been stolen away by my incapacity to parent myself. Now, why is this important? Well, look, what I want to get across today, and I have a few more things that I want to talk about before we close this off, is understanding the power of authenticity and ownership when it comes to wanting to communicate. Who do we best learn from? You can answer in the comments if you want, or just answer to yourself. Either way, it works. Who do we best learn from? Do we best learn from the person who says things but doesn't do them? Or the person that says things and does them? Which one, people? Option one, the person that says things and doesn't do them, or the person that says things and does them, right? Dale, I think I'm going to go with option 2. I don't know about you, do?
I'm all in option 2. I've put all my chips in option 2.
Option 2. I'm going to go with option 2 as well. Yeah. Now, the interesting thing there is, and how does this link? Well, let me break it down for you. When we learn to parent ourselves, when we decide that we have this inner child within us, we have our own needs, we have our triggers, the things that make us feel irrationally frustrated, it's going to happen, or angry, sad, or not noticed, or fearful. That's that child within us. And it's our obligation as a parent, not only to our physical children, but to ourselves, to learn to manage that and take responsibility for that. That's important, because when you do that, and this isn't about perfection, this is not about completing this game, this is ultimately about you getting into a space where you start to work on that. And this is what will happen. When you work on that, when you work on meeting your own needs, when you work on listening to your own inner child, the requirements, the thoughts, the fears, rather than just kind of shooing yourself off, you become more authentic in your capacity to lead yourself. You become someone who is true to their word. And I don't know about you guys, but when you're around those people who really live and breathe what they ask of others, when you're around those people who really walk the talk, how much more compelling is it to want to listen to them? Right? How much more compelling is it to want to not only listen to them, maybe negotiate with them, maybe go and follow their lead? For me, I can only speak for myself and the many people that I've worked with, I know it's incredibly compelling. In fact, it's my number one priority in life. Practice what I preach. Lead from the front. Walk the talk. It's not easy. In fact, it's really difficult. But it's nowhere near as difficult as the frustration of not being able to communicate effectively, not being able to meet your needs, and therefore by design not be able to understand the needs of something outside of you. Because here's the one little bonus thing we must all understand. We can only really see what outside of us through the filter of what we are. We can only really see outside of us through the filter of what and who we are. You think about the example of anger. You ever heard that, red mist example? When you see red, right? Or when you're frustrated. Think about when you're frustrated. How annoying is everyone else when you're frustrated?
Yeah.
They're really annoying, aren't they? Everyone's really annoying. And of course, that's not us. That is everyone who's being annoying that day. They all they got up earlier than you that day, and they all said, right, we're going to really be annoying for Callum and Dale today. Because they're perfect,
Exactly.
When they're and this is the thing. We must understand that we have a level of responsibility for our emotions and our thoughts. And if we learn to commit to that, we will therefore inspire those outside of us to commit to that. Communication is so much more than words. Only 7% is the word you say. Only 7%. I'm sure Dale's shared that with you. 38% is how you say, and 55% is your physiology. Now, let me make this as clear as day. That physiological standpoint, the tonality comes from your authenticity. It comes from your development. It comes from your capacity to live and breathe and ask of others what you would do yourself, nothing else and nothing beyond that. And when it comes to children, they sense that more than anybody. Especially before the age of 7, the sponge stage, we call it, their malleability is through the roof. And they learn predominantly through a process called osmosis, which is essentially see, do. But it's not just the literal see, do of, or mum picks this up, or dad does this, whatever. No. It's they see beyond the words. They see beyond what you're saying. They see beyond what you're doing. Actually, they're very, very much in a brainwave state that allows them to pick up on far beyond that, your emotions. They can feel into what energetic state you're in, whether they know it or not. They're learning from that more so than the words you're saying. And so For me, what that told me when I was growing up and what that's told me in my 20s as someone who is always working with others, okay, always asking big things of others because I work with those types of clients, leading others in many different capacities, whether that's events around the world, talks on stages, or courses. I know that I can only ask of others what I am living and breathing and honoring within myself. And I tell you what, people, here's the secret. That was when things really started to change. Something shifted. When I was able to take the reins and take responsibility for my child, my inner child's needs, and not have them distract how I'm showing up in the world, right? I really stepped into a space I like to call true leadership. I'm going to define that, and I'm going to take a pause and just see if there's any questions so far, and then I will continue, because as you can see, there's plenty of things we can be talking about right now. So true leadership, false leadership. Let's define this. This is what everything I've been talking about is so far. False leadership, that bravado, that person who needs to be the loudest, not is the loudest, needs to be the loudest. It's almost that intimidation. Okay, it's that falsehood of the offense equals the defense. It's the person who's most insecure in the room comes from that false leadership. And as I said earlier, I want to repeat myself purposefully so we really ingrain those learnings. We are all leaders. Everybody watching this right now is a leader of themselves and maybe of others. And so we will have all done these different things. We all have our own insecurities and instabilities, but we also all at the same time have the capacity to work with that and through that. Again, giving props to Dale, whether he's saying this directly or not, he's giving you the tools to do that. He's giving you these amazing tools and insights that will radically change this internal world and radically change how you show up in that external world. To your kids, to your partners, your spouse, to your family, to your friends, your colleagues. That's the power of this. This changed and saved my life, and I know it did for Dale as well. So finally, true leadership, the person, as I said earlier, who walks the talk, who takes responsibility, who knows that they are in charge of their mind and therefore their results. And if your desired result is that your child will do what you ask, maybe it's something like that, or that they will aspire to something, or whatever it may be, whatever that may be, you fill in the blank there. That's not my role. This will best happen from a space of authenticity, from you getting into that powerful state where you are living and breathing what you are asking of others. So I have a few other statements that I want to unfold and unpack, but I want to take a little pause now just to check in, hear how everybody's getting on, and see if Dale has any prompts as well that he wants to throw in there.
Yeah, dude, that was your flow was on point just there. You took your story. It always hits me square there. There's a few other people on here as well that are that's a very emotional story. It's a really powerful story as well. It's really cool, actually. What I've got here is, for parents watching this, communicate with yourself first, and then communicate with your child. I know you're familiar with Dr. Bruce Lipton's work of imprint phase, the sponge phase before the age of 7. Over 70% of what they learn, a kid learns from you is negative, sabotaging, limiting. I don't, roughly 70. I don't know what point label it, but this is his work. And maybe as a parent, you might see them and be like, oh God, oh my gosh, what's the point? So much pressure on myself. I like to take the pressure away from parents and say, look, you're doing everything you possibly can with what you've got available to you just there. I had a client recently who swore at his daughter, who's 11, said a naughty word. I'm obviously not going to say what it was, but it was a naughty word. And that was his inner child of frustration. So at some point when he was younger, he learned to be frustrated in that way and release that tension, that word, whatever it may have been, with that tonality and that body language, which, let's face it, for a child, they hear the word, great. But what's even more harmful from that in my head, and maybe your head as well, would be the tonality and the body language that was given with that word as well. So we have to be aware of absolutely everything. And he was really cut up about it. He really beat himself up because he never ever wanted to do that. There was a lot of things getting on top of him. It was what's happening in the world now. whatever the excuse or reason is. And he apologized straight away and then asked for forgiveness. He just like, there was a sudden shift, and he apologized and really wanted the forgiveness. And I thought it was great that he did that, because, well, not swear, but what he was doing was he was teaching a lesson of responsibility and ownership over what he did, like pretty fast just there. So he was looking, so he was looking into himself, thinking, wow, well, I wouldn't. Maybe it's a question of, maybe you can help me with this one as well. So communicate with your inner child first, communicate with yourself first. Would Alex, my son, want to be spoken to? Would I want to be spoken to like I'm speaking to Alex right now? Am I understanding Alex? Whatever. And do what would I want for what do I want from this? What do we want for this? How is this going to be fitting his needs and my needs at the same time, because we're cohabiting at the moment? So yeah, I'm not really sure if there's a question just there, dude. I just carried on talking. But is it right in saying that?
Well,
to communicate?
There's some really good points to highlight. Really good points to highlight, that you gave a great example. This is a live example, and I appreciate you doing that, man. So look, this is the thing we have to understand. Number one, what I wouldn't want anyone to do today is walk away from what I've said and think that there's an element of us that can be perfect and that we're not going to mess up, that we're not going to make mistakes, that we might not have that little naughty word come out of our mouth every now and again. That is going to happen. That is going to happen. And even when I've been working on myself for the last 12 years, I still have the regular slip-ups. The difference is, though, and again, coming back to the true leader and the false leader, is how we respond to what's happening for us. So as Dale just gave the example, if you're in that moment, that heated moment, you feel your heart pumping, you feel that shallow breath, you feel that rush and that fight-flight mechanism kicking in, your stress response is fully there. We should know that that's not us. That's not us in that moment. Now, what I've trained myself to do and what I work with my clients often is to know that we can practice becoming aware of that. You see, for a long time, I used to be incredibly angry. And when that anger came, I didn't know I had a choice to not allow it to take over me. I didn't know that. In fact, I just thought that when anger comes, or whatever that emotion is, you're done for. It literally, that whatever happens now, I'm not in control of that. And that was a reality for me for a long time. And I'm so thankful now that I've been able to work through that, be able to create a sense of calm internally for myself. It allows me to communicate far more effectively and communicate from a space that is not of fear, but is more so loving to the individual that's in front of me. That's a practice. And the core part of that practice and my learnings and my development has come from my failures. Has come from the times I did slip up. Has come from the times where I said, I shouldn't have said this. I shouldn't have done this. But you know what? I'm willing to take responsibility. I'm willing to be the grown up in this situation. I'm willing to be emotionally mature in the situation. And I'm willing to know that I'm in charge of my mind and therefore my results. I'm willing to know that I'm responsible for where this moves forward now. Because here's the thing, if we had that word slip out of our mouth, to use Dale's example again, it's important for us to know that, okay, let's not continue to allow our past to define our present and our future. What we can do is be compassionate to ourselves. Remember, let's come back to that inner child. What we don't want to do right now is go, I'm so annoyed. I said that horrible thing to my child. They're annoyed at me now, and I'm going to beat myself up about it. And this is going to be a spiral. And if I'm maybe not in that awareness stage, I'm probably just going to put it on them even more without knowing it passively, and know that it was nothing to do with me. Right? It's a tough way to live. It's a really tough way to live. And actually, one of my greatest personal development experiences is having a relationship with my girlfriend. You're going to find this with your spouse, with your partners. We're often two children arguing. It's never two adults. Never two adults arguing. And I'm not talking about big kids in adult series. I'm talking like when we're arguing, it's never the adults arguing. It's never the true leader arguing. It's us in our triggers. It's us in our insecurities, and we feel we need to fight it to get rid of it. It's just not true. You might get rid of it, but it will only ever make it worse. So 2 key things to highlight, because I just said a few things. Number 1, if we mess up, be compassionate to yourself and to the person that you may have messed up and impacted because of that. It does not solve the problem if we beat ourselves up for the act. That doesn't. We should take responsibility, but not beat ourselves up. When we take responsibility, the difference is saying, okay, I know that wasn't me in that moment. I know that was me not being in control of my triggers there. I know I didn't give myself the space to be able to appreciate what was coming up for me. But I will do that next time. And this is the trial and error process. It's a commitment to always bettering yourself. And as you do so, you get to be the parent that shows that to your child. You get to be the parent that does mess up, because we all will and we all do, because we're humans. That's the only reason. It's the best reason as well. You also get to be that person that messes up and then shows that person in front of you that when we mess up, we take responsibility. When we mess up, we take the reins back. We apologize for our part. That's not, again, it's nothing to do with the words. It's the act of ownership. Dale mentioned that word. Ownership is one of the core virtues in the inner leadership model that I teach. It's the be all and end all. All right. Because when you own your ship, when you take the reins back, you then become the director of your emotions, of your thoughts, rather than being led by them. And I saw a quote actually by Russell Brand, and I'm not sure it's actually directly through Russell Brand, although I do highly respect that individual right now in his spiritual path. It was this: you remember, you are not your thoughts and you are not your emotions. You are the observer of that. One of the areas that I teach a lot in my practice is meditation and breath. Why? Well, look, when we're in our triggers, when we are not communicating effectively, our physiology will also respond to that. You've never been angry and triggered and frustrated and just calmly, deeply breathing and in a meditative state, have you? That doesn't happen, right? I certainly haven't. So here's the thing, and again, I'm going to use your example, Dale, so I appreciate you bringing that up. What I wouldn't advise is, if you are in that moment, I wouldn't advise, when you're in that moment of maybe you're not communicating effectively or having that communication being effectively presented to you. Either way, when you're not in that space, I wouldn't try to negotiate your way out of that by trying to remember thoughts and things. Why? Well, it's very difficult. Well, have you ever tried to negotiate with someone who's angry? Have you ever tried to speak to someone who's feeling chaotic? It's difficult. It's really hard. Now, what we can do that's much better and much more effective, say we're in that moment where we're just about to say the bad word, we're just about to do the thing that we're probably going to regret, that isn't going to be leading by example. We can recognize that rushing feeling, that sensation. We can recognize the emotion. Here's one of the fundamentals we must all understand from the mind. Thought follows emotion. Thought always follows emotion. Okay? So if we change our physiology, we also change our emotion. We also then change the thoughts from which we create that palette from. Essentially, thoughts are that we can only think from the emotional palette that we're in. What do I mean? Get to the point, Callum. I'm getting to it. Change your breath. The best thing you can do, the biggest gift you can do, the biggest golden nugget you can learn in any moment, if you don't feel that your situation is going in the way you want it to, nor do you feel good about it, nor does the person in front of you feel good about it, the best thing you can do is the most simplest thing to do. It's also free, which is great, right? Simple and free. Awesome. We win. Breathe. And not only continue to breathe shallowly and fast paced like you're about to be in a fight and flight, right? That's what this is, any argument. No. Next time you're in a space where you don't feel you're communicating effectively, this is the power. I don't need to teach you how to communicate effectively. I just need to teach you how to come back to a space where you're more calm, more present, and more peaceful, because you can already communicate effectively. Breathe. Next time you're in that, I want you to remember what Callum was saying. When you're feeling that rush, when you're feeling that miscommunication, I want you to deep breathe. In fact, let's all take a moment right now. You've been listening to me talk. So let's just breathe. And I want you to do this. Just fully exhale all the way out. Then inhale through the nose. Big sigh. Do that again. In through the nose. Let's just do one more time. This time we're just going to exhale through the nose as well. So in again. Whether that shift that just happened was subtle or whether it was huge. Whether the weight that just released from the tension of your mind was huge or whether it's just minute. Whatever happened, something shifted. Let me know if something did shift or if it didn't. You just let me know.
I found it in my shoulders, my back.
Your shoulders. Yeah.
Like, and I'm not like a tickling sensation, but kind of like a soothing sensation of just like. And so for other people, maybe in the stomach, but for me, I found it in my back. I was just like, it's almost as if I just give myself permission just to relax.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. And I love the way you frame that, man. Like, parents, you know how to communicate effectively. You know how to communicate effectively, perfectly. What maybe we could all do with a bit of, here we go, someone's felt really calm just there. What we could all do with it is the initial response before the reaction. So the check-in, the awareness before the reaction. And look how you said that it is fight and flight. And when we do go in fight and flight, it's like, oh gosh, we've got to run away from that big bear or that lion. So I need to increase my heart rate. I need to increase my breath. I need to be very erratic and hot, whatever. But it's not the bear. It's your kid. It's your child. You don't need to. Your body doesn't need to respond to that. So catch yourself before that reaction, and therefore you wouldn't need to project the swear words. But even if you do, don't be the kid inside yourself giving yourself a hard time. I like that, man. That was the way you put that. I hope people are getting this. I hope people are understanding the value of this. It's not, how to communicate really effectively. Well, you need to say these words in this exact order. I need to say it with this tonality. I need to say it with this body language. And you need to do it. No, you just communicate with yourself first and catch yourself and be aware of your pre-fight and flight response.
Your quality of your relationships outside of you are directly correlated with the quality of the relationships you have with yourself.
Yeah,
it always has been true. It always will be true. Always will.
Can you say that again, man? That was good.
Yeah, the quality of your relationships outside of you are always directly correlated with the relationship you have with yourself.
Yeah.
And whether that's the moment-to-moment relationship with self or the continued relationship and development of relationship with the self, know that your power to relate with others, communicate with others, will directly be correlated with your capacity to communicate and relate to yourself. And that involves really giving yourself many of these different tools. As Dale just highlighted there, the breath, he felt that relaxation through his shoulders. Dale's doing this incredible thing for everybody today. He's going to be here for 16 hours. That's a marathon, man. But so he's going to need to breathe in between these things. And that's not because he doesn't enjoy them. I know he thoroughly enjoys them. I know he's very passionate about this. However, we must look after our internal state. And if that takes 3 breaths for you to feel more relaxed, for you to feel more present, then Dale and everybody else, we can all communicate far more effectively because we know how to do it. And we can only communicate. I'm going to highlight this again. We can only communicate right. Think about words and stuff like that. Those thoughts and those feelings always come from those emotions. And our physiology also determines and plays with those emotions. So if we change our physiology, we change our breath, okay, we come back to that calm centered space, then we communicate. The communication is going to be far more effective and authentic. It's going to come from a different space. Now, that's not to say you don't get to tell someone that they were an idiot or get to tell someone that they shouldn't have done what they did. You can still do that. You get to still do that if you still feel you need to do that. Because you might realize after a few breaths, or you might realize, and I'm not going to get into this now because we're closing up, but I'm sure I'm very happy to offer more information. Once you get good with your own boundaries, you teach your children that, teach people around you that, and you're in that trigger and you say, you know what, I just need to breathe right now. I'm going to walk away from this. I will come back to it. You might find that, that is no longer a problem. It's no longer a problem. And there's a man called Deepak Chopra. He's a very famous author. He's a doctor. He's also very well known in the spiritual and psychological community. Very smart man. And he's been quoted to say that 90% of our problems are at the level of our thoughts. Okay, 90% of anything we think is a problem is at the level of our thoughts, which is, as I've just mentioned, you've all heard me say, I'm going to say it again, is directly correlated to our emotions. If we can start to work with that, communicate, meet our needs, be better at dealing with our own stresses, we'll be less triggered, we'll be less likely to do things like tell people to do things and not do them ourselves, right? Poor leadership, less likely. So this is all, and to summarize now, because I'm recognizing the time, my advice to you, and the one thing I'd love you to take away from this, is that when you start to take responsibility for your emotions and your thoughts, you get into a space where you can communicate not only with yourself in a just exponentially different way, but with others as well. This is a trial and error process. You will not perfect it, but you will get better at it. And again, practices like meditation, like breath, like coming to these seminars are all going to be amazing things that you can do to start working with that. You will be a much more authentic leader. You will lead by example. The people who are around you will see that. They will want to listen to you because of that power of compelling authenticity that I spoke about earlier. It's all there for you people. And look, respect for the time right now. I just want to pause there, open up to any questions, and then come to a close. But it's been a pleasure.
I love that, dude. It's so powerful, and you've really given me a calm state just here. Becky's just put. I also felt shoulders relax as if someone put their hands on them. Yeah, it's very, it's very powerful. It's really cool, actually, and so overlooked.
Breath's like an internal massage. You can see it as that. That's why they use it so much in yoga. It's like an internal massage, and that's what we all require.
And people are worried about me eating. I'm okay. I'm a big breakfast, and I'm going to have a big dinner later. And it's sometimes I like to have a few fasting moments just to test my body for me.
You've trained yourself well, haven't you?
Yeah, so so thank you very much for your concern, everybody. If there are any questions, then please feel free to ping them over for me. Now, we've spoken a lot about the age before 7, dude. So what if I've got a 9-year-old or a 10 or 11-year-old which is playing too much Fortnite or gaming or whatever it may be, and they get very annoyed when you interrupt them in their game, but you know for a while they've been on there for 17 hours, they need to come off and do something a bit fun. What might this level of communication look like, and this method of communication look like in that particular example? I know I'll put you on the spot because I haven't pre-framed you for this.
I think before we approach that, we can most benefit from putting ourselves in the shoes of that individual we're about to communicate with. If we have that hindsight, use that, because that will give you the script of how you feel is going to be the best way to communicate. First and foremost, put yourself in their shoes. That's a practice of compassion, basically. Know how they might feel with you saying something in a certain way. Whether you know that for sure or not doesn't matter. Just aim to be more compassionate in your approach. We know that our responsibility for our own inner child is that sometimes it's going to have to do things it doesn't want to do, and that is a big part of it. Okay, and the same goes for our real children, right? It's a big part of it. But ultimately, the key is in communication. The key is in how are you approaching this, not just in what you're saying, but who are you being when you're saying it. That will drastically and radically improve how that communication is potentially received. You are responsible for how you show up. We can't force someone to do something. Maybe we can, but whether you need to get to that point is down to you, and it's down to how you'll approach it. So yeah, to summarize, step into their shoes first and foremost if you can. If you already find yourself in that moment and you're already in the argument, you know what to do. Realize that this is two children arguing. Just because you're bigger Just because you're older doesn't mean that you're not children having an argument right now. Is that going to solve it? No, nothing to prove there, and it doesn't show anything that's helpful. Now, if that's happened, that's fine as well. Learn from it. Make a commitment to change how you show up to that. Remember, breath is there. So once you're in it, use your breath to find some composure, and you can decide, do I walk away from this now, or can I, and do I have the capacity to communicate to this more effectively now? If the second answer is yes, continue. If the first answer is no, respect your boundaries, respect those, and know that whatever this is really about, 'cause it's probably not about the games, it's probably about something deeper. You're worried they are not going outside enough. You're worried that they are not communicating with real people. It could be anything, but it's yours, mine, Dale's responsibility to know what we're trying to communicate, so we have a much greater chance of bringing that across when we go to do so.
Yeah, dude, that's really cool. I love that, and it's almost as if you're saying that you need to be aware about what you are communicating, what your needs are to show that one off. So, dude, yes, thank you very much. I'm definitely aware of the time, mate. Where can people find you?
Everyone can find me on Instagram and Facebook at the moment. So Facebook is actually Callum Robert, and I don't know if Dale can sort out linking that one, but Instagram is Callum Hardingham. You'll find me over there. I'm very active on both platforms, and I just saw Becky put, what if they are just not listening? Again, same thing, Becky. I would say, look, if they're not listening, it might be about a matter of choose your battles, or at least the timing of which, So if I know that I'm not in that state of mind to be receptive, I'm going to go and do something different until I'm back in that state of mind. Let's say I'm parenting myself. Same goes for that child. It might just be that at that moment in time, we've got to go, okay, this is not me being a bad parent here. This is not me, quote unquote, losing, because this is not a game of winning. This is a game of communicating effectively. I'm going to allow this at the moment because I want to approach them when I know I can communicate this effectively, and I know they might be more receptive. Hopefully that makes sense. It is picking those battles ultimately with ourselves and with others.
Yeah, 100%. Picking the battles.
Oh, and if anyone has any other further questions, sorry, Dale, but I know I've covered a lot of things today. You can email info@callumhardingham.com. Found a very simple email address nowadays. There's nothing but my name. So you can fire questions there, or to Dale, and he'll fire them over to me.
That's awesome. And if you do have Instagram, you can go onto my page and you see that I'm following Callum anyway. Just type in Callum, you'll see me easily.
We're friends, aren't we, Dale?
We are friends. We are friends. I've got lots of new friends now. Yay. Dude, thank you so much for your time and allowing us to have a segment of your Saturday, your dedication. It just, and what Becky just said, I was about to say that it makes so much sense. It does make so much sense. So wonderful. Dude, thank you so much. I value most things that you say. In this particular context, value everything you've said. So I appreciate that, man. We can have a little bit of banter, can't we? Because we're friends. I want to say thank you so much for your time, bro, and have an epic rest of your Saturday. And I'm sure these people are definitely going to follow you and seek more knowledge from you. So thank you, my man.
Absolutely, my pleasure, dude. Again, big props to you. What a legend for showing up to so many people every day. Love it, man. And thank you for everybody who's attended today. The fact that you're contributing that to the development of your child and yourself is admirable. And I respect it so much. Big love.
Wicked. Cool. Thanks, bro. Take care, mate.
Peace.
Cool team. So that was pretty sick, wasn't it? That was pretty sick. Now we have got Ben Salmi. Okay. Ben Salmi. He's going to be on the next link. I'm going to close this one down and get him on. Okay. So I'll see you in a second.